Hello everyone, my name is Nick and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2. Now you may be wondering, why on earth am I on a forum right now and not in the game? And that is because we have some very exciting announcements about this game. Recently the developers put out a little update on Steam, and this update hasn't been released yet. They just informed us that it was coming. Basically, we're getting the science update. Now this game has been the picture of inconsistent development so far. I have hopes that this is going to turn things around for us. So first, we're going to have a look at what exactly they're claiming is going to be included in this update, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about a project we're going to be working on over the next few weeks. So first, the update. Biggest thing here, exploration mode, which basically means they're going to be adding science to the game and adding like the R&D center, the tech tree, basically allowing us to explore different biomes within the Kerbal system and to collect science from those biomes, which we will then use to unlock new parts. So this is basically the classic Kerbal science mode, and it says in the update that the reason it's not called science mode is because eventually this will be the same mode that's used to colonize planets, which is really exciting. That is one of the biggest draws of Kerbal Space Program 2, in my opinion. Now, as you can see here, it says we've got new science collection parts coming. You can see this is like just a little module. I guess it's in here somewhere. We also can see here's another science collection module, and there's like a detailed science interface here. It looks like there will be basically notifications when you're in an area where you can collect science. So an example of this, you fly into the upper atmosphere or in low Kerbal orbit, and you can collect science, maybe pressure readings. It says here we have crew observations, orbital survey data, radiation measurements, all that good stuff. And then you basically redeem all that in the tech tree to unlock new parts like this. So it's so cool to see an actual in-game screenshot of a tech tree. Also that we're getting mission control now, which gives us basically like quests, you can think of them as campaign items more or less. And we're also this is bad news for me. We're finally getting heating and thermal. So this is going to be bad. They also, this is the biggest thing in my opinion, they claim they're going to fix the wobbly rockets. Do I believe them? Truthfully, not yet, but I really hope they prove me wrong. So why am I showing you this? Well, when KSP 2 was released, we can all agree it was a little bit less than what we were expecting. But with the release of this update, which is slated to come in December, we are going to be relaunching into Kerbal Space Program 2, and we are going to try for the first time to go further than low Kerbal orbit. So, in today's video, we're going to be doing the first of many projects to build crafts and spaceships to sort of help us get there. So, in order to explore the entire Kerbal solar system, we're going to need interplanetary vehicles, we're going to need satellites, we're going to need like refueling depots, crafts that can land on other planets, all this fancy stuff. So in today's video, I'm going to put up our very first space station and have it function as some sort of a propellant depot in orbit, assuming I can make all that happen. So as you can see here, we are back in KSP 2. Now, I want to stress again, this update has not been released yet, so there is still only sandbox mode as of right now. However, that doesn't mean that we can't start building crafts that are capable of doing this. So what I want to do today is I want to build a propellant depot station with a docking port. I want to put it in an orbit above Kerbin, and then we're basically going to try to do at least one refueling run, maybe, if I can figure that out. All of this to eventually enable us to hopefully travel way beyond low Kerbal orbit. So let's start it. Okay everybody, so I've officially finished construction of not only our satellite here, our orbital fuel depot, but also our delivery vehicle. So I've designated the fuel depot, which is inside of this fairing. I think there's a way I can open this. Maybe not. You'll see it once we get up there. It's basically just a satellite that has a docking port on the top, 2 propellant fuel tanks, 2 solar panels, an antenna for communication, remote guidance unit, and a whole bunch of RCS and SAS stability stuff. And then we have all that strapped to the HD-1, or HDV-1, which is Hopper Delivery Vehicle 1, because it is literally just intended to hop off the planet's surface, deliver something to low Kerbin orbit, and that's it. Currently not recoverable, nothing like that. Maybe we'll look into recovering it eventually. I think our delta V is a little lower than I want, but I think we should be good to launch here. The sequence of events, it's going to be pretty simple. We're going to launch using both our main engine and our boosters. We're going to use those to get up into a point where our apoapsis is above 70 kilometers. We're going to shoot for 80, and then we're going to coast up to that apoapsis, burn prograde once we get there to get into an orbital position. And then once we're up there, we will jettison this fairing, open the antenna and solar panels on our fuel depot, detach the fuel depot from the hopper, and hopefully we will have our first ever station in orbit. I'm really curious if I'll be able to do this. This is the most technically complex project I've ever tried to do, and it's not even that complicated. Let's kick it off. There we go. Slight pitch to the east to start things off. We don't want to overdo it, and we have plenty of time to get there. Now, the reason that we're building a fuel depot in the first place is because I want to build basically like an SSTO that we can use for planetary exploration. Then that SSTO can get up into orbit no problem, but then once it's there, it can refuel using our orbital fuel depot. So let's jettison our boosters here. Keep firing. There we go. Okay, we got plenty of fuel left. You can see our apoapsis is almost... We're going to shoot for 80 here. Should be at 80 now. That's pretty close. There we go. So you can see there's our apoapsis. But yeah, the idea with the fuel depot is eventually we will use it as a pit stop for our spacecraft on their way further out into the system. So this is basically just a proof of concept for us, showing that we are capable of designing something like this that will actually be able to fuel stuff in orbit. Now, I think the hardest part, honestly, is going to be docking with whatever, like docking the fuel depot with whatever craft I send up after it. I remember the first time I touched this game, I was like, I didn't even understand how to get into orbit. I thought it was so complicated. It's really not. You shoot for any apoapsis above 70,000 meters, but not too far, because then you'll just leave the planet. Once you get there, right at the apoapsis, you do a prograde burn right along the horizon, and that circularizes your orbit. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're above 70,000 now, so we want to orient prograde. I'm just going to tell our system to do that. So what you'll see is, because our orbit here, our trajectory is parabolic, once we hit the apoapsis, we will be oriented perfectly at the horizon. And now we begin firing. Oh, I just hit sticky keys. No. Okay, we're fine. So now what we're looking for is for our periapsis here to get above 70,000 meters as well, because at that point we will be in a stable orbit. So you can see the orbital trajectory coming out here. Hopefully we have enough fuel to do it. Oh, we might not. Actually, I think we will. There we go. Okay. So that is 70,000, 73,000. That's still a little bit lower than we would like in our apoapsis. Oh! Okay. Actually, we've a little overdone it here. This is not a very good orbit. Let me see if I can't fix that by boosting directly upward. Kind of fumbled on the launch here, I'm not gonna lie, but I've seen worse, and we will recover. So let's do radial out from the planet. That's a pretty simple trajectory. And now let's fire the rest of our fuel. That should bring our periapsis up above 70. Okay. So this is not a great orbit, but that is simply a piloting error on my part. You know, that's something that I can fix. So what we're going to do now, first, is we're going to save, because bad things happen. Now, the fun part. So first, we need to jettison the fairing, which will happen right now. Goodbye, fairing! There it goes, off into space. Very nice. Okay, so you can see our little fuel depot here. Now, we're moving pretty quickly, so I'm going to extend these panels so we get... Oh! Goodbye, fairing. Physics just broke there for a minute. You see these automatically locate the sun, so we're getting our nice input. And in order to control this, we need to extend the antenna, which we will do right now. And there we go. We should now be able to, if we go to the tracking station, We should see two separate craft. Okay, we still see one because they're joined together. Now the delicate part. So I'm going to hit spacebar, and that's going to jettison this booster, or this stage, the hopper delivery vehicle, from our craft here. There we go. Okay, now pause. Now we officially have two separate craft. Now, this has its own navigation module, as does the satellite. So now if we go to the tracking station, we see two separate objects. Now, default name for some reason, is the actual fuel depot. So we're going to name this Fuel Depot 1. And then this is the hopper. So we're going to rename that HDV1. HDV1. Okay, great. Now we are able to control both of these vehicles. So what I'm going to do is I hit play. See, the booster is beginning to fall back to Earth. Although I don't actually think it will at this rate, which is kind of a flaw on my part. But we're not going to worry about that right now. Now if I select the fuel depot, hit control, there we go. This is now our orbital fuel depot. And as you can see, here is our docking port. That's where spacecraft would dock. Now, the nice thing about this is while it does have these thrusters, which I had until this point disabled, in fact, I'm going to keep them disabled, except for docking maneuvers, it also has an RCS module. So this should be able to orient itself in space like infinitely, because the RCS modules, these rotating ones anyway, only use electricity and gyroscopes. And since we have solar panels, we should be okay. I also added these thrusters in case it needs to make any big maneuvers. Those use monopropellant. Probably should add a separator here to separate this fairing base, but whatever. Let's take a look at our resource manager and see what we've actually made it to orbit with. So first of all, the battery is fully charged. The methalox, okay, so this is important. So what we just did is we successfully delivered this craft to orbit, this fuel depot, with two full fuel tanks. So we didn't use any of the fuel in either of these tanks. So in theory, assuming my orbit wasn't dumb, what we could now do is if we design an SSTO or any other kind of spaceship, it can fly up into orbit using probably SRBs or something like that. It could even use all its fuel if it wanted to, and it can then dock with our fuel depot and sort of refuel itself from the fuel depot, and then it can go beyond. This is the actual system, the whole system. Eventually, in this little series we're doing, I want to get all the way out to Elu. I know they eventually are planning on doing interstellar travel, but that's probably years down the road at this rate. In the short term, I just want to do a mission to the Mun. So that's what we're going to be working towards in the near future. We're not really going to need this fuel depot for that, but we might use it just for proof of concept. But yeah, I would say this is a pretty big success. I need to get better at orbiting things, but now the hard part is going to be rendezvousing with this thing.